Welcome to the only place where real, raw, and vulnerable conversations happen with IFBB bikini pros to give you an inside look at their struggles, strategies, mindset, passions, and all of life beyond the stage. This podcast is made to inspire, motivate, and remind competitors and the average gym goer that even the most extreme lifestyles and elite athletes have their ups and downs. Thank you so much for tuning in today. I'm your host, Celeste Rains-Turk, and now it's time for the Confessions of a Bikini Pro podcast. This 29-year-old athlete is heading into her 5th year competing, but her first year as a pro. She won her pro card at her very first national show and works as an online coach for bikini competitors in the NPC as well as lifestyle clients. She is passionate about helping others see that you can live your life while you're on prep with the right work ethic and mindset. So welcome to the show, Jordan Wondergem. How are you doing?
Thank you so much, Celeste. I'm doing really great, and that was such an amazing introduction. Thank you. That was so
Glad
sweet.
You liked it. You're welcome, of course. And I'm so happy you're here. And you know I'm going to ask you, what is something you do or think about or a ritual you have right before your heel hits the stage?
Yes, of course. I was definitely thinking about this question before. So right before the stage, I actually have kind of a build up to the stage. I grew up playing competitive soccer, and before games, I kind of always would get into a zone. And so I treat competing the same way, where I would kind of find a corner backstage and just put some headphones in and listen to kind of the songs that got me through prep. Like, you know, those songs you had that just, you had all the feels during those songs during prep when it was like hard or amazing. I would listen to those songs specifically to get me just back in those moments and everything I kind of had to go through to get to this point. And I'd let myself just relax and kind of settle down. And then I'm just very mellow by the time I'm actually up on stage and about to step on. I just kind of go into like competition mode where I'm like, okay, we're here, we're doing this. I'm just all smiles, hold your abs in. I just kind of have like a mental monologue that I go through, and I just am like, we're here, we did it. And then in my head, I'm thinking, okay, judges, you're going to watch me. You're going to love this. Like, let me show you what I've brought to the stage. And I just go.
Yes, and you work it and you get their attention.
Exactly.
I love that. I think it's so cool that you said you listened to those songs that got you through a lot of those moments, because I do that every time I drive to a show with my mom in the car. Like, and I've never gone without my mom, so that's always something really special. And I love that we'll just listen to music. I'm like, some of it's kind of explicit, but we gotta listen. Because it brings me back, you know, to the grind, to the process. And you're right, there's something about that, like it's almost like, for me personally, like gives me that validation internally that I couldn't even ever receive from an external validation of, let's say, a trophy or a qualification. And it's just a very fulfilling thing to do. So I think it's super cool that you do that.
It's so true. I mean, there's nothing more powerful, I think, than music and vibing with music and putting them together with those moments. It's powerful. Like you said, it's nothing anything else can give you.
Do you have any songs that come to mind for you?
I have one that I would start last year at the beginning of every single cardio session, and it's called Best of Me by Nefex. I think I'm saying that right. It's Neffex. But it's called Best of Me. And it's just like more of a like upbeat lyrics, motivating lyrics, but it's hip hop-ish. And it's just a song saying like they're expecting the best of me. And I would just envision like my coaches, like they want the best from me, and envision like my clients that they want the best from me. And so I would start every single cardio session with that song.
Wow.
And so that was one that I definitely played at nationals right before I went on stage.
Would that be your walkout song if you got to choose?
Probably not, because it's definitely not as like, it shows it's more like poppy
Yeah,
and
yeah.
a little bit more like trendy music. I don't know if it would vibe correctly, but it definitely works to get you like in the mindset.
I love that. And you're actually a coach to other competitors. But what's cool and what's interesting to me is you coached yourself up until, and correct me if I'm wrong, but up until your national show preparation. Is that right?
Exactly. That is
Okay.
right. Yeah, I
What
did
did
my
you,
first 3 years. Sorry.
no, I would love to hear that. What's your story behind that? You did 3 years of coaching yourself completely?
Yeah, self-coaching. I didn't really go into my first year of competing thinking, oh, I'm going to turn pro. It was just kind of a natural progression for me doing what I was doing in the gym already. I just wanted to take it to the next level. So I wasn't thinking at such a high level. So I was like, oh, I'll just coach myself. I had some people that did it, so I would just ask questions. Oh my gosh, I'm so
It's
sorry.
okay. Welcome to the show.
I know, right? Dogs. Um, so for the first 3 years, I just kind of coached myself, and I'm the kind of person that I like to figure things out my way, even if it is probably the longer way to do things. But I wanted to kind of figure all these things out my own way. And then when I got serious and I was like, okay, I want to take this to the next level, I knew there were things I didn't know. So at that point, I was like, okay, let's get serious here. Let's hire a coach. And then I had my coach all last year for the national preparation.
And are you working with your coach now, or did you work with him throughout your improvement season?
Yes. Yeah. So we signed up. I actually just signed up another year with him. So we did all improvement season, and now we're doing all of prep again. I don't see myself going anywhere else or going self-coaching again, just because you get to a point where having that third eye is just so important, because you get inside your head so much. And you can only coach yourself, in my opinion, like to a point to where you're too inside of it. You need someone that's outside of your head to say, hey, you're doing well, or hey, you need to step it up here. It's just nice to have that validation and then that other opinion.
Absolutely. And so can
Yeah.
you walk us through, like, during your self-coaching years, how did you monitor your progress?
Funnily enough, I actually used social media. And I remember it was like every Saturday or something, I would do like check-in pictures, like a check-in post. And so I kind of just used that as a gauge. Just every week, I would still do the same thing. I would do check-ins, but then I would just kind of send them to social media. And then I would compare and contrast from weeks before. And then I would just kind of honestly wing it to where I was like, well, maybe I need to do more cardio. Maybe I need to do less carbs. I honestly didn't really have too much of a method back then. I just kind of went for it. And as long as I was getting leaner each week and losing weight, I was really, really big on the number on the scale back then, which I am totally opposite now. But as long as I was losing weight, I was like, I'm doing something right. It's working. And I would just kind of go from there.
Yeah, I was curious if you ever like doubted yourself or doubted your methods when you were coaching yourself.
Honestly, I did. And so at that point, if I would reach out to friends and I would say, hey, can I get your opinion? What do you think? And then I would ask for, sorry, I'm putting my dog outside.
Okay.
He loves to sit on our perch in our house and like bark at anything that walks by the house. So I would totally doubt myself. And at that point, I would just ask if I was looking bad to people that are obviously in the world. I actually had a few professional athletes that were friends as well. So I'd ask their opinions and just kind of bounce it off people when I was doubting myself. But I definitely did. And I think that's the biggest, that's the biggest reprieve of having a coach now is if I doubt myself, I can just ask my coach and he is like, yes, you look terrible, or yes, you look amazing. And you can just trust that 100% and be like, cool. And you don't even have to worry about it.
Yeah, I love that about having a coach myself too. Like that's just
Oh
something
yeah.
so valuable. And I coached myself throughout my entire last improvement season for like 8 months. And then I just like, you do hit a point where you're like, okay, I'm ready to get some eyes back on my progress, some eyes back on what I'm doing, because it takes that pressure off of yourself. But you know, there's a lot of girls who do coach themselves or have thought about it or want to take that approach. And something you mentioned was that you didn't really have a method and you did focus on things that now you don't focus on as much, like let's say weight on the scale. So I guess I have a two-part question. The first part is, what kind of methods do you or did you develop over that time of coaching yourself that you now apply with your clients? And then what methods maybe have you learned from your coach that you've found to be game changing for you?
Methods that I've developed myself, um, probably just figuring out how to diet properly. And for stuff I learned myself, I think the biggest thing is I learned what not to do. I think I probably did everything that was like the stereotypical bikini competitors, what everyone thinks we do. I did those things. I did them all because I was like following the trends and I was like, oh, these people say this works, so I would try that. So I didn't really learn, like I just learned a ton of things of what not to do.
What
I'm
are
like,
some of those things?
that was ridiculous. Just the whole like water loading, sodium loading, um, just the basic stuff. Like you have to do fasted cardio. You have to diet on 0 carbs. You have to do all of this cardio. Just like the basic stuff. I learned, there are so many other ways to diet and to do things properly and in a more healthy fashion, that I'm happy I had those experiences and went through them myself, because now that I know those things, I can coach my clients properly because I know that I went through them and I know not to do those things.
Right. And if someone comes to you and says they're doing them, then you could be like, well, there's another way. So
Exactly.
then they also can relate to you or you can relate to them and you can speak to those experiences you've had. And you talked about how you did hire Shane. Well, you didn't say his name, but I know it's Shane. So I'm just
Yes.
saying his name. So you hired Shane. And so what's been different since having a coach? Like what has changed? What are some things, I mean, you just pointed out the things you learned not to do, but what are some things that you appreciate or like doing or about having him as a coach for you?
For me, Shane is a perfect coach. He is a little bit more hands off, which was perfect because I was self-coaching. So I didn't necessarily need someone like holding my hand and walking me through prep. I knew what it was about before I even got to him. I think I had done 8 or 9 shows. So I knew what it was
Wow.
all about. Yeah. And I just needed someone who knew more and knew how to take it to the elite level and the next level. And that's what he taught me. Just how to train harder, how to train properly. It was more focused on training specific muscles for the specific look of bikini. And then the biggest thing was dieting. And it was how to diet properly. And then it was how to push yourself when you think you're lean enough. And then he's like, no, this is actually what lean enough is. And then you get there and you're like, oh, wow, this is really lean. I would have never pushed myself this hard or had done it this way because I didn't know. So him basically just opening up my eyes to how things work and how things are was the biggest thing. Does that make sense?
Oh yeah, it makes total sense. And I love that you brought up the conditioning aspect, because
Oh
I
yeah.
noticed a huge, like, anyone listening, like, please go look at Jordan's Instagram, because this progress is crazy. I noticed a huge difference in where you were when you qualified for nationals and then where you actually were conditioning wise at nationals. So a
Oh
lot
yeah.
of girls talk about, the level of conditioning at nationals, and it's crazy and this, da, da,
Oh
da.
yeah.
So what was your experience prepping to be ready, and then also to get to that level of conditioning and push yourself to a place where you hadn't yet?
It was a whole experience. I mean, it was wild. Like you said, when I qualified for nationals compared to what I was at nationals, it is night and day. I mean, it's only 1 year apart, but it looks like completely different people. Pushing yourself to that level and getting that lean was one of the hardest things I've done. It was extremely satisfying though, just because you had to push yourself so hard and you had to have such a level of discipline that it is satisfying to know you can do that. But it was extremely difficult. It's not easy to get that lean. It looks beautiful and glamorous on stage, and I think everyone loves how that looks, but nobody realizes how hard it is and how just insanely difficult it is to get there and every day keep pushing and keep working when you're tired and when you're sore. I remember someone telling me that they said once you get to a level of leanness that starts to hurt,
Oh yeah.
you're about 5 or 6 weeks out from actually being where you need to be. So once it starts
That's wild
hurting,
to think about.
you still have about 6 more weeks to go. And it's so true, because you reach a level where it's just like painful to do it. And I mean, I still had 5 or 6 weeks to go. And you don't think you can get leaner, and then you do. And you're like, what is happening? This is crazy.
And your family worries about you, and people start looking at
Yes.
you like, what the hell's going on?
Oh yeah, my mom. So I actually lived with my parents while I was doing this, and it was so cool for them to see it firsthand instead of just hear about it. And I remember a few times I would just obviously complain to my mom, because you just
That's
have
what
no
you
filter
do.
with your mom. Yeah, you just like, it's like word vomit. You're just like, you tell her all the feelings. And I would do that, and she'd be like, honey, I am so worried about you. Do we need to tell Shane that you need to calm down a little and you need to eat more food? And I was like, Mom, no, this is what it is. I'm just complaining. She's like, I'm just so worried. Like, you're so
Aww.
sweet. But this is what it is.
They're like, they see someone wasting away to nothing. And meanwhile, we're still eating like 6, 7 meals, but
Oh
maybe they're more
yeah.
like depletion style meals. And then, you're just like, oh, they start to hear, the fixation mindset that comes with it, regarding
Mm-hmm.
food, and then the pain. The pain of the cardio and the soreness, and not being able to walk upstairs without being like, out, out,
Oh,
so
totally.
it's just all those little things, and it's different. You look weird compared to when you're on stage. You look so glamorous, and you got your muscles popping, and you're pumped up, and you probably even ate more carbs, sometimes if that's necessary, and you just look better. But sometimes leading up to that doesn't look so hot.
Oh, not at all. It's scary leading up to it. I mean, I remember there's always a point in prep where you're like, well, makeup's not a thing anymore. Doing my hair is not a thing anymore. Like, I'm going to walk around like a little boy with my hair in a bun on my head and just get through my cardio and eat my food and sleep.
Yes, if I can sleep.
Oh, yeah. I definitely dealt with that too. I think the last few weeks I was having the biggest struggle sleeping.
Mm-hmm. I can imagine, because your body just like, dude, we need to survive. We need to go get something. Like, we need to sleep, and your hormones all over the place. But you ended up earning your pro card at your first national show, and like you said,
Yeah.
this process was so fulfilling for you. You actually prepped for nearly half a year for this show. So what was the game plan from, after you got qualified? What feedback did you get, and then how did you act on that to then come ready the following year and earn that pro card?
I got qualified June the year prior. And honestly, I don't remember asking for any feedback. I thought I was going to go to nationals, to the Junior USAs in Vegas a month later.
Mm-hmm.
And I took a step back and I was like, I am not going to do well. I already know, just based
Mm-hmm.
on how I looked, I was like, I am not ready for this national stage. I'm not going to go spend hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of dollars to be told that. I
Right.
felt that I wasn't going to be good enough. So I kind of just took a break, honestly, for a few, probably like 6 months. I kind of took off, and kind of just dealt with some personal life stuff that was happening. And then February of last year, I just got serious and I was like, I want to give this a true go. I'm the kind of person that's either all in or all out. Like, if I want to do this, I want to do it right. So that's when I decided I'm going to hire Shane, and I was just going to give it my all. And I did. I knew Shane knew how to get someone to the professional world. He is going to give me the roadmap. It's my job to follow it and work my ass off and do what he says. And so it was just kind of that mentality moving forward for the 6 months.
That's awesome. And
Yeah.
I watched that video and the video on your YouTube, where you were sharing like how you became an IFBB pro, and the actual videos from North Americans. And were you feeling anxious in anticipation as they were like calling? Because I know even at a regional level, when they're calling fifth place, fourth place, kind of like, please don't say my name. Please don't say, okay, are you going to say my name? Like, what are you going to say? Depending on how many girls are on that stage. So what was that experience actually like for you when, there was only one spot left and then they said your name?
It was pretty surreal, honestly. I don't want to sound totally bratty, but I knew I had it after prejudging. I
That's
walked out.
awesome.
I walked off that stage at prejudging, and that was when I had my emotional like cry moment. I was like, holy crap, this just happened. Like, I know I'm first place. Like, I knew it.
You got moved to the
So
center.
immediately, like,
Yeah.
it's just a vibe. I mean, I don't know if you feel this too, but sometimes you can sense it when you're on the stage and no judges notice you. You can sense that. You can sense when you're kind of a ghost up there. But on the other hand, like, you can sense when all the judges are looking at you and you're standing out. Like, it was just a vibe I felt that I knew it was happening. And
Actually, yeah, I hadn't thought of
yeah.
that, but in reflection, I definitely have felt both of those things. So yeah, it's a different feeling. So you knew after prejudging that you were going to get it.
Oh yeah. I mean, I did. I walked off and I was just like, holy crap. Oh my God, this is happening. And then I almost don't want to talk about it too much, because I'm like, okay, so what if I jinx it? Okay. I'm just not going to talk about it. I'm just going to go home and hang out. Actually, I had to go wash my tan off and drive across the town and get it re-put on because I was turning very, very green.
Man, do
And
you
so
think that could
that
have
was
risked
stressful.
it?
We didn't want to take the chance.
Right.
I remember Shane was texting Tiffany, his wife, backstage, and was like, she's turning green. She needs to go fix her tan. And I was like, ugh, like, I don't want to do that. I don't know if you've been to Pittsburgh, but downtown Pittsburgh is kind of chaotic. It's just like a big city. It's really difficult to get from point A to point B in a timely fashion. So I was like, I don't want to do that. I'm stressed. Like, I kind of just want to go back to my house and lay down. And so I was like, well, how important is it to go get this fixed? And he was like, well, do you want your pro card or not? I was like, well, okay.
I guess I'll go get it
I guess
fixed.
I'm going to get my tan fixed.
How did you know where to go?
It was the same place that did the first coat and everything. So it was
Okay,
just like
that's good.
the same company. Luckily enough, they fit me in really well and they did an amazing job. And it actually, like, in comparison, looking at the tans, I was so green during prejudging. So I was like, well, thank you.
No, that paid off, obviously. I mean,
It did.
that's awesome that you were able to get it fixed and then step up there and get what you came for. And like we talked about, you really completely transformed your physique from the regional show where you won the overall, right?
Mm-hmm.
And qualified and then won your pro card. So what was the difference in your prep compared to past preps? And what do you think allowed you to feel as prepared and really as confident as you did? Like, what are some of those key differences?
The intensity of my training definitely was the biggest thing. Training the right muscles, kind of like what I said before, training to have the proper look instead of before I was just kind of like, let's just go hit shoulders or back or legs. And then it was like with Shane, it's like you hit these muscles, specifically these movements, and it's going to shape your body this way. So just having more of a specific training style was a huge one. Obviously, dieting properly was a huge one. Beforehand, I always did my preps like the same meal plan or macros, basically like Monday through Saturday, and then you have a cheat meal and then repeat. That was not something I did at all last year. It was specifically calculated like low and high days. So there was really no room for a mistake. And that was a big one. Doing more cardio, honestly, I hate saying it, but
Yeah.
I finally came to terms with the fact that, like, yes, in order to get that lean, especially for my body type, I do need to do more cardio.
What
So
did
that
that
was a
look
big
like
one
for
too.
you?
It was a lot, honestly. It got up to 2 hours. I know that is a big,
Was
like,
this low
controversial
intensity
topic.
state?
Yes. Yeah. It was low intensity. I would split it up though. And then for about 30 or 40 minutes of it, I did do some like jogging around my neighborhood or at the park just to kind of split it up out of the gym. Because 2 hours on a treadmill at the gym is mind numbing. I mean, it's terribly boring. So I could only do that for so long. And then I was like, I grew up playing soccer. So, I mean, being outside is my favorite. So I would split that up and I would do some outside with running and sprinting. But for the most part, it was low intensity. But it did get very high. The number got high. So doing that as well was a huge difference. And then the mindset of thinking and believing that I could actually accomplish this goal, I think was the biggest. In the past, when I was competing, I just was starting out and I was self-coached and I did have a ton of doubt to where I was like, I don't know if I'm good enough. I don't know if I'm lean enough. And I would just doubt myself. And so having that mental switch of just telling myself every day, no, you're going to get this. You are good enough. You deserve this. You're working towards this. And believing that, that was huge. And so saying that to myself every day then makes you act on it. You're going to train that way. If you believe you're going to accomplish this, you're going to behave that way. So I think that was the biggest thing that really like got me to that end goal.
Absolutely. Yeah, there's no doubt that when you actually believe in yourself and you believe in a process, you believe in what you're doing and what's possible, then your actions will start aligning with that. I actually just talked to Shayla Hubbard on the show, and she was talking about that, and we kind of got into it. And I know a lot of girls really struggle with their mindset. This is something that I work deeply with competitors on, and why I created that on-demand platform and just all of these things that I do is because I know that we can have more fulfilling and successful preps and improvement seasons if we focus on the mindset. So I want to hear from
Mm-hmm.
you, what are some of those things, because you like to talk about putting in the work and going after what you want and aligning your mindset to your goals. So what are some of maybe your daily rituals or things that you did aside from those affirmations that you feel really help you or allow you to tap into that mindset?
Definitely. This was huge. So every morning I'd wake up at 4 a.m. and kind of get out of bed, turn on the lights immediately because who wants to wake up at 4 a.m.? Nobody. So turn on the lights immediately. And then I grab my journal and I would immediately just journal either everything that's going on in my head or everything that I'm struggling with or things that I'm happy about, maybe stuff I wanted to accomplish for the day. But at the end of every journal entry, I would repeat my affirmations like, I am an IFBB pro, I am a bikini pro champion, like I am Miss Bikini Olympia. And then I would write that every single day. And then I would go do cardio. And then I would have my affirmations again in my notes that I would read at the end of every cardio session.
That's
And
awesome.
so just like seeing it every day and reminding yourself of it every day was huge for me. And then at the end of the day, I would read them again right before I went to bed. And those helped a ton, just to constantly like keep reminding yourself, like, what is this end goal? What am I working for? Because prep gets so difficult and so hard, especially for women when we go through like the leaner stages, when we are messing with our hormones and everything. Like it's so hard to lose sight of why we're doing things. And then you kind of spiral into this just negative mentality. So having those positive affirmations and reminding myself like what the end goal was really helped keep me just positive and working towards a specific goal and not losing sight of it.
I think that that's awesome that you actually applied that so many times and so frequently throughout the day to the point where it became your reality. And you have talked about how, you know, this sport and the elite level of, or I guess taking it to the elite level may not be for everyone. So what do you think really sets apart an elite competitor from the rest?
I think a lot of it is that mindset. I think a lot of it, like specifically to bodybuilding, is genetics as well. And just how hard you want to push yourself. I mean, it takes a lot to do this at a higher level. And I don't think people realize that a lot of people don't want to do that. Like they don't want to push themselves that hard, and that's totally fine. But if you want to be up at that level, you do have to push yourself harder. And this has to be a lifestyle that you live every day of the year. You know, it's not a 12-week prep and then, okay, let's relax the rest of the year until our next 12-week prep. Like it isn't that lax, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
It's just more, you have to commit a lot of yourself and your life to the lifestyle to be at that elite level. And I just don't think it's for everybody. And that's not a bad thing. I think the
Right.
people that do it at the elite level, I think we're like slightly crazy, and that's why we're good at it.
Mm-hmm.
Because that's our thing. You know, I think everyone has their thing.
Yes.
And the people that do it at this level, I just think we're crazy enough to commit everything we can to it, you know?
Absolutely. And kind of branching off of that, you know, a lot of people think that, well, if I want to be able to do that and I want that and I want those results, how can I fit this into my lifestyle? How can I still have fun? And you've talked about how you believe that it's possible to fit competing into your lifestyle and to have balance and enjoyment in your life, you know, even when you're on prep. So how have you been able to find this, and what does that look like for you specifically, knowing that you're still living at this more elite level of commitment?
Yeah. For me, it is once again the mindset of it. I still enjoy every part of my life as well as prepping. Because in my head, I'm thinking, nobody's making me compete, right? No one's like pointing a gun to your head saying, you have to compete. I choose to compete. I choose to live in this world. I choose to live this lifestyle. So I don't have to like push that burden on to anyone else. So just with that mindset, I'm able to go to like a birthday party and bring my food and be okay with it and just enjoy the social aspect of everybody, you know, just being around everybody and loving everybody and just being with family. Yeah, I may look weird eating out of my Tupperware, but it is what it is. I just kind of ignore that fact and I'm still able to just enjoy people. But I think it's the mindset of knowing that I don't, like, no one's making me do this. I choose to do this is huge. And then just preparing yourself for it. Like if you know, oh, I have a weekend getaway with someone, you just prep for it, right? You just prepare your food, make sure you can get your workouts in, make sure you can get your water in, you can rest well, and then you just enjoy the other aspects of everything. You can do it. I do believe it can be done. I will say this though, you are way busier. Like if you're going on a vacation with your family, they get to vacation. I have air quotes around that because they get to enjoy the vacation part of the waking up and relaxing and, oh, we're going to go boating at 2:00 in the afternoon. And you're in your head as a competitor thinking, okay, so if I need to be on the boat at 2, I need to be up at 6 a.m. and I need to get my cardio done. I need to get my lift done. I need to be back in time so that I can prep some food so that I'm not starving on the boat.
Yes.
So it's, yeah, like you can do it. It's totally doable, but we're busier doing it. I mean,
we are.
but we choose to do it. You know, we
Yes.
love this lifestyle so much that this is our choice. And so you just do it and you try to do it with a smile on your face. And I think my family definitely appreciates the fact that I put forth that extra effort so that I can be with them and still have experiences. And I don't have to be the one that's like, no, I don't want to go. I'm going to stay home.
And you know? And then not going and being like, oh, I wish I could have this, or I wish I didn't have to wake up at 5 a.m. to get this done. Like, no, just if you want to do something, you could do all of it, but just understand that what comes with that is a new level of attention to detail and commitment and planning. And something that drives me crazy is like when people say, well, I can't because of this. I'm like, no, you're still choosing not to. You know, there's got to be a shift in perspective where, okay, if I want to do those things, I can, but here's how I have to prepare for it. Or modify your expectations of yourself so that you may modify your timeline if you're not willing to make those commitments. And I think sometimes people's expectations of themselves are too much so rooted in what they see from others and not enough of what's going to be best for themselves. And you actually had kind of started competing because it already fit your lifestyle. You were already lifting every day, so it just felt like a natural progression for you. Do you think that having a base of a lifestyle like that beforehand has helped you to continuously pursue this?
Oh, definitely. I mean, it was the only thing that really changed dramatically was the dieting. But I was already doing 2-a-days just because I enjoyed being at the gym. So I definitely think it helped. And I think that's why I fell in love with it so quickly, because it wasn't too dramatic of a change to my lifestyle. It definitely just enhanced it. It created just more structure, more discipline that then like bled into other aspects of my life. So for me, it was just like a puzzle piece. It was just like, oh, this is what I've been missing. This is amazing because I get my competitive nature back because that's what I grew up doing and that's what I love doing. So it meshed so well for me.
I love that. I definitely feel the same way. I think that that's something a lot of girls, if they're listening and they've never competed before and they want to, I think that that's something so important. Like have the lifestyle first, enjoy it first, like make sure it's not just, do it. Sometimes that actually ends up working in a lot of people's favor. They're like, oh, I'm going to commit to a competition prep or a show, and then they end up falling in love with the lifestyle and living it, which I think is awesome too. But I actually agree that there's something about that smooth transition where it just fits in. um, and you talked about your goals and you talked about how you align yourself to those goals every day, but I always love hearing about what really drives people. Like what drives you every single day to keep going for yourself and going after your goals?
That's a good question. I don't know if I have a specific thing. I have always just been a person that loves to progress. I cannot be stagnant with anything ever. I mean, ever since I've been a little kid, I've just always like wanted what's next and what else can I get and what's the next thing? Like, okay, I accomplished this. What else can I do? And I just have always wanted to keep growing. And so I think for me, it's just that I just want to keep going and keep pushing. And I finally found a passion in competing and helping people in health and fitness. And so it's never ending. It's like, oh, well, now I can do this and now I can do that. So I think it's just pushing and progressing. And I just think that drives me, not necessarily like anything specific. I think it's
Right.
just to keep progressing as a human and as a person. I just love growing and I just love challenging myself and accomplishing new things. And I never want to get to the end of my life and be like, well, I never accomplished anything. And oh gosh, that was the most exciting thing that I accomplished. Like that's lame. So I am like always looking for that next cool thing to challenge me and to like, I guess, win.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Competing definitely provides a lot of opportunities to do that.
Oh yeah.
So how do your goals or priorities shift when you enter an improvement season as opposed to preps?
So in the past, when I was self-coached, I was that typical bikini girl that prepped for 12 to 16 weeks and then fell off the wagon hard. I had a terrible mindset. I was that girl that was like, oh God, I have to do cardio. I have to eat this food. I hate this food. I just want pizza. And I would look at food porn. Like I was that typical bikini girl. And so once you get to the end, if you're just dwelling on the negative and what you can't have and what you want, you just like fall into a black hole of all of it at the end. So I would fall off, stop training, eat anything I want. Like I just went from 0 to 100. So I was that typical person in my improvement seasons in the past, but this year it was different. Definitely because I was like, all right, I'm a professional now. I want to treat this a little bit differently. So it was more of just trying to find, I guess, balance and enjoying a few more social occasions. But it was, okay, how do I need to improve? I now have this elite title. I'm a professional. What do I need to do to now compete with it? Because my goal isn't to win the pro card and to stop. It's to win the pro card and get to the Olympia and become Miss Bikini Olympia eventually. So how do I get from point A to point B? And it's build this muscle group, build that muscle group. And so that was kind of how I went into improvement season last year. It was okay, like, yeah, we can enjoy some food, and yes, we get to do a lot less cardio, which is awesome. But it was still, we're training 5 to 6 days a week. We're still doing some cardio. We're still staying on our diet. Yeah, you can enjoy cheat meals and everything, but the way I looked at that was, this is now fuel to build muscle. And so I've kind of gone into it with that mindset of the work isn't over. It just continues. There are just a few variables that change. A little bit more leniency, obviously, like, oh, there's a birthday party tonight. If I miss this training session this week, you're not in prep. It's not going to kill you. One night isn't going to ruin all of your progress. You know, you get a little leniency there, but you're back at the gym the next day, trying to improve, trying to progress. And so it's all encompassing. Like the second I got the professional title, for me, it feels like it became my career, which I love. And, you know, you got to treat it that way, 365. It can't just be how I was in the past of, 16-week prep. Thank God it's finally over. Now I'm going to be lazy and do nothing.
Exactly. And finding like, what does that lifestyle actually look like for you, you know, and how do you create that identity for yourself that is fulfilling and makes you happy, so you're not having those moments of, gosh, I don't want to be doing this. But I know you have struggled with that before, and when you hopped back into the prep you're in now, there were some of those beginning stages where you were struggling to adhere to your diet and even contemplated throwing in the towel, you know, on the whole prep. So what shifted within you to go all in for your goals again and really commit to a prep?
For this year? I don't know what it was, but at the beginning of this year, I think my mindset was starting prep. We are going to just start getting lean. And I didn't have a show in mind. I didn't have anything set. I started my own business. I actually went back to school. So I had a lot of other things on my mind as well. And so having so many variables up in the air, if a moment of weakness came around where I was like, oh, I'm so hungry. Oh, I want to eat this. I kind of just let myself succumb to that. Because I was like, well, I don't have a show in mind. You know, I don't even know how many weeks out. So I noticed that had happened a few weeks in a row, and I reached out to Shane and I was like, hey, this is what's happening with me. Like, what do you think we need to do? Like, I think I'm struggling because I don't have a show date set in mind. I work really well with a goal. Like, that's how I've always been. I work really well with a goal. I'm able to kind of focus and dial in. And so Shane and I had talked about it, and that was where we were like, all right, let's set a date, you know, let's at least do something. It was really far out at that point. I think it was like 25 or 26 weeks out was the goal. And I was like, right there, just after that conversation, I was like, okay, I feel so much better. I was like, just having that for me was big, just because that's how I work. That's how my mind works. So I was really able to kind of bring it back and get back into that mindset and go forward.
And how are you feeling now with shows changing, or do you have like a longer term goal anyway? Like, what are you aiming for, if you don't mind sharing?
Not at all. So this was actually just something that came up yesterday. The show that I was prepping for is canceled.
Which one was it?
It was the Vancouver Pro.
Oh no.
I know. And I had been watching. So I had clients that their shows were canceled, and it was heartbreaking to watch it because we were prepping for months, and to watch them work so hard and to get watch those shows get canceled like 5 weeks out. I was heartbroken. And so I had been watching my shows and nothing had happened, and it was in July. So I was like, okay, you know, it's far enough out. Who knows what's going to happen? And then I started seeing like the national competitions being rescheduled that were in July. And I was like, you know, I need to go check on this. And so yesterday I went to the website and I was like, well, crap.
Yeah.
Mine is canceled.
No.
Yeah. So it was actually a really hard day for me yesterday, just kind of processing it, and not knowing what to do. And then I have the stress of finals in the next week or two. So, you know, all the things. And I think my period is starting in a week or two. So I'm just extra emotional about everything.
Oh, yeah. It's so crazy. Like when that happened, like when my first show I was planning got canceled, I was just like, at first I was in denial. Like, no, my show won't get canceled. It'll all be fine. And then it happened and I was like, oh my God, this sucks. And then
Mhm.
it's kind of like you pull yourself back up, it passes because you have, the next goal or the bigger goal. And I kind of am just under this impression or this mindset now, like everything will happen in perfect timing. And for me, I'm like, okay, I'm 9 weeks out, but it's like we're not really treating it like a hardcore prep anymore. Like me and my coach aren't. We're just like, let's take it day by day and see what happens. And if the show gets canceled, so kind of just capitalizing on this as an opportunity to experiment with the body and learn. And I'm actually really grateful for that. So I think, there's a lot of girls whose show got canceled, but we can focus and on what we can control and how we can feel about it. And like you said, that mindset, oh, it makes such a
Mhm.
difference.
No, you're so right. I mean, I actually say that to my clients all the time. Like, what can we focus on that we can control? Because we can't control everything being canceled, right? Like,
Mm-hmm.
we cannot. So we can't sit here and dwell on it and be sad about it. Like, take a day, take a weekend. Yes, cry it out, bitch
Mm-hmm.
about it to everybody, have those moments where you're just like, this sucks, it's terrible, get it out there, and then make a plan.
Yes.
Turn around, move forward, start working towards something. Don't let yourself slip into that mindset of defeat and struggles and just thinking like, oh, woe is me, all this stuff is happening. Like, be proactive and be like, okay, like you said, like, you now feel like it's a blessing. Like, that's such an incredible way to look at it, that
Mm-hmm.
that's what I think everyone should be doing, is like, okay, what are the positives? Like, what is this teaching us? What can we do with this time? um and for me, I'm actually in a new relationship, which is exciting.
Oh.
Yes, and he is training to be a Marine, so he goes to boot camp in 5 weeks.
Mm-hmm.
And the struggle I've actually been going through the last couple of months since we met has been, okay, I'm in this new relationship and it's like the fun, exciting, like brand new part of it. And I'm like, I'm in prep. I can't enjoy a date with him. I can't do this stuff and that stuff. So like internally, I'm just having these struggles. And then when my show got canceled, I'm just like, maybe I need to take 4 or 5 weeks to not be prepping so strictly. And like you said, focus on maybe like doing some different things with your body. I could focus on just maintaining and building, but then I get to focus on this person in my life that's going to be gone he goes to boot camp, I think, and then training until December. So he
Wow.
literally leaves in 5 weeks and I don't see him again until December.
Mm.
So it's just like, at that point, I can be gung ho, prep, crazy, all the fun things. And I was like, maybe this is an opportunity for me to take this 4 or 5 weeks and really capitalize on a, a social relationship that I wouldn't be able to enjoy as much if I was just hardcore prepping. You got
Yeah.
to find a different perspective or something that makes it feel happier and better, because I'm still like, no, my show is canceled. I feel like such a, like, I'm like, I don't know what to do. And it's been very, very interesting. But like you said, I'm
Yes.
just trying to like find a different perspective and, okay, what can I control? And, everything happens for a reason. What can I do to make this a better situation for myself?
Especially as a goal setter and a goal getter, it's important to shift the perspective as fast as we can, because if we continue to hold ourselves to a standard that no longer exists under the circumstance we're in, we're setting ourselves up to be disappointments to ourselves or to face failure, rather than just saying, like what you said, throw your pity party, move on, develop a plan. And I think that's really key. And I love that you touched on that. And I actually was curious, like, how have you been handling this as a coach to your clients? You said, you've been sad seeing all the work they've done and then having it be canceled. But what goes through your mind in terms of staying up to it, or how are you coaching them through it? Like, what's your approach been?
Honestly, just being a sounding board for most of them. I think being women in this world is super difficult. We're constantly judging ourselves. We're under all this pressure. So you work your butt off for this goal and it's taken away from you without any like if for a show, you get the excitement of the show at the end, you know, you get like that exciting carrot at the end, but like for it to just be taken away and you almost feel like you got nothing out of it. That's what was heartbreaking. It felt like it was just like all build up and no fun. So being a sounding board for them and just letting them, you know, be sad about it and like talking to me about it. And I'm just like, I just want them to tell me how they're feeling. You know, I think a lot of women, they just want to be heard and they want to feel heard and they just want to feel validated. And sometimes they just need someone to bitch to about how much it sucks. And then they can get it out and then we can work on a plan. That was the next big thing is I was a sounding board. And then it was like, all right, let's make our next plan. And most of them, we've already set new show dates, new building plans. We've already set the next goal. And I think that's huge. Like you said, it's throw your pity party and then set the next goal. So that's what I've been doing.
Man, it's just like, I see this as such a great opportunity for so many people to see that it's not about the show, you know, like we can get so much out of it, but yes, you know, you can't become Miss Bikini Olympia without stepping on stage. So you want to step on that stage, and as competitors, and like you said, with competitive mindsets, well, you know, it sucks when we don't get the opportunity to seize what we are working towards. And so I think that it's awesome to hear your perspective as a coach and how you're helping other girls deal with that. And also, I really appreciate you being vulnerable and sharing what it's been like for you. And even though, you know, this episode's probably, gosh, I really hope by June when this comes out, this is all over.
I hope so. It will not be forgotten though. Like everyone, like
no way, that's for sure. So I have some kind of random questions that I wanted to ask you.
Ooh.
Yes, some were inspired and asked by listeners, and then others were just kind of, you know, we didn't talk about them yet. So first and foremost, we discuss what you aren't doing anymore, the things that you don't believe in or anymore or don't use. So what now are your peak week protocols usually like?
I am gonna like blow everyone's mind, but I do not run any peak week protocols at all. It was literally so I do high and low and high days. So I have a certain amount of low days and then a high, certain amount of low days and then a high. So essentially like deplete and then refeed. I did that all the way into the show. I think I had a high carb day Thursday, and then my carb up day was Friday. And so I did my high carb day on Thursday and I did my carb up day on Friday. And so I guess Friday I do have a high carb day, or I mean the carb load day before the show. And then Saturday it was just more carbs if you needed them. But I didn't have any peak week anything. I drank actually 1.5 gallons of water on show day. I had the same amount of sodium, and I did the exact same thing I'd been doing all prep. It was so simple that I was like, what? This is no, this is too easy. I don't like this. I remember reaching out to my coach being like, what are we doing? Like, what is the protocol? And he's like, nothing's going to change. You're fine. Just do what you've been doing. And I was like, oh, this feels weird. This is so weird.
Did your training change?
But it was perfect. Not really. Honestly, I don't think I trained Thursday. Oh my gosh, I'm totally off because my show was on a Wednesday.
But we were pretending it was like a Saturday.
Exactly.
So do the math.
So do it backwards. I think I flew out there Sunday and I trained Sunday, and then I didn't train like Monday, Tuesday. And that was just kind of like a judgment call. I felt fine, but I didn't want to push it. But leading up to that, I didn't change any training. It was all the same.
And now, do you take a similar approach with your clients?
Definitely. And it's such a fun conversation to have now because they're like, what's the peak week protocol? And I'm like, nothing.
Yeah. Yeah, that's interesting.
Yeah, if you're lean enough, there are still things you can do. If you're lean enough, that is how you can approach it. You don't have to change anything. You already look good.
Right.
If you do want to manipulate some things, there are some things you still can do on a more mild scale than, what people would typically do. And what I've done in the past, I mean, I've done the whole diuretics, the water loading, the sodium loading, I've done it all. So there are things you can do if you have to manipulate some circumstances. Like, let's say a girl started her period that week. Like, you're not going to pump a bunch of carbs at her because she is already retaining water. So you're not going to do anything to exacerbate that issue, right? So there are some circumstances where obviously you would need to be a little bit more like, you need to watch the details a little bit more, but for the most part, it's pretty much like, well, why would you change what you've been doing all prep? You look amazing leading up to it. Why change it? Your body's used to it. Yeah.
I think that's interesting because there are so many different approaches, and even after a show, people take different approaches. And I remember in one of your videos, you talked about how you would do depletion meals after your show so you could enjoy other foods too. So I'm talking like right after your show. So what does that mean? Can you break that down for listeners? And why do you choose to do this up until you start reverse dieting officially?
Of course. So, basically you go out, I mean, show day, you're actually eating a lot of food. You're carbing up, you're eating a lot of food. Like when you're eating your honey or your peanut butter or whatever, you're actually consuming a lot of carbs. So you're filling your gas tank. Let's just use that for an example. You're filling your gas tank. So let's say it's like 3/4 of the way full by the time you're done with your night show. And then you go out to eat and you enjoy delicious things. And I feel like the basic bikini competitor thing is you go to Cheesecake Factory, right? And you enjoy the bread and the food and the cheesecake, and that's 2, 3, 4,000 calories. So let's say your tank is full. Like you have filled up to your capacity the amount of like carbs and fats and calories that your body can handle. And most of us go to bed that night and wake up and they go to brunch. So you're not waking up and like burning those calories immediately. You're adding more. So at that point, we're spilling over. We've consumed way too many carbs and fats and calories that we are just like adding to your tank and adding to your tank. And it's spilling over and over and over. So the point of the depletion meals is just feeding yourself lean meat, lean protein, and vegetables. So it's basically just protein and veggies, not really carbs, so that your body starts eating away at all of that extra stuff you've been feeding it. So what my coach likes to do is just 3 days of that. And that way your body utilizes everything you fed it that weekend. So that way, when you start reverse dieting, you're kind of just back at square one. Like, okay, we've utilized all of that food and now we're back at square one and now we can start to reverse. Does that make sense?
Absolutely makes sense. Yeah. And I'm sure, even listeners, if they have questions, they could reach out to you about it, but it makes total sense. It's essentially, and I like the metaphor you use about the tank. That actually illustrated it really well and helps me and others to understand. And I think what I always like to think about is like, what do you actually want to feel like throughout the day? Post show shouldn't be about eat and stuff your face with as much as you can. That's I guess, how am I going to put this? People who do that are no more healthy or less healthy than someone who I'm not being clear. I'm not speaking clear. What I'm trying to say is like, people will say, oh, don't do a water load. Don't do a sodium cut. Don't change your diet. Don't change your training. And then they go and they binge post show for like 3 days. It's like, how is that healthy? But it's not, it's not healthy. So
Exactly.
if we truly, want that health and that feeling good, we have to make considerations like that. Well, that's going to make me feel good. That's the healthier approach. That's the approach that I feel good about. And then again, going back to like, drinking your water, doing the usual, like I like getting in the habits immediately. Like the day after the show, like sometimes I'll do a cardio session. Sometimes I won't. It's like, what's my body feeling like? And if we can allow
Oh,
ourselves to like
exactly.
feel, then we can take the proper action.
Exactly. And I love that you say that, because I actually, for me, when I like post show, I usually always get like a massive digestive just blech going on. So I will always get like acid reflux. And so having those depletion meals of just like chicken and veggies, my body is, you can just feel it being like, wow, thank you.
Yeah.
Because if you just put more on top and more on top and more on top, it just feels nasty and gross. And then like you said, you just, you feel so blah. So yeah, giving it just like those nutrients and the water and just vegetables is just like, it's so nice.
Exactly. It's about like changing the perspective from, oh, I have to do this to afford these things, and more so like, no, because it actually makes me feel good.
Exactly.
So this is this is a newer question submitted recently by a listener. She said, what is your favorite or strangest prep meal?
I used to have some weird ones. Like I remember ground turkey with cinnamon and stevia was amazing.
Actually,
So
I could get
weird.
behind that, because I'll do like ground turkey with like lemon pepper, and then I'll drizzle it with like the Walden Farms maple syrup, and it tastes like a morning sausage.
Yeah. Yeah, I could definitely see that.
So then that
Okay.
makes sense with the cinnamon and stevia. It would probably taste like a
Yeah.
heartier, sweeter sausage.
Exactly. So maybe that's not too weird.
No, it's still weird to put stevia
I
on.
know.
That's pretty
On a
weird.
meat. Yeah. And so I think because you're a competitor, you're like, no, it's not that weird. But I think in terms of like what everyone else thinks, they're like,
That's
what?
weird.
What are you saying right now? Like, that's so funky.
Exactly. No, for real. It's like that dieter's tongue, right?
Oh, totally. It totally is. And sometimes I've actually run into circumstances where I am like telling people on my social media, like, try this, it's amazing. And I get messages that are like, this is disgusting. It almost made me throw up. And I was like, oh my gosh, I'm so sorry. Like, I definitely have that like prep food brain going on right now. I'm so sorry. I should put a disclaimer. I am on
Yes.
prep.
Been dieting for 24 weeks.
Exactly. Like, this is liquid gold to me right now. I apologize.
Okay, so this last question is, if you could only pick one exercise for glutes, hamstrings, and shoulders, what exercise would you pick for each?
In terms of what's best for my sport or what I enjoy the most?
Preference, like what you would like to do, like would be enjoyable.
Glutes, I actually hate glute bridges. So
Really?
yes, I don't know what it is, but I despise them. I just don't enjoy doing them.
Dang.
I know, it's so weird. So I would say for glutes, probably kickbacks, like on the machine. I fell in love with those last prep.
Awesome. Okay,
So for that, yes.
hamstrings?
Hamstrings, RDLs. I love RDLs. So Russian
Yes.
deadlifts. And then for, did you say shoulders?
Yeah.
Lateral raises. Get the best pump. I've noticed the most growth with lateral raises. So yeah.
Do you usually do them with a bent elbow or straight?
I will do, I want to say both, definitely. And then I will use dumbbells and the machine. And then so depending, like if I'm on the machine, I can straighten them a little bit more because I have a little bit more control over the movement because it's on a machine. With dumbbells, I bend a little bit more to kind of use that momentum.
So do you go heavy?
Yes and no. I will, for me, what I've noticed the biggest growth with my shoulders is like drop sets, supersets, giant sets. So I will start heavy and then get lighter. But I've also been able to like burn them out with fives. You know,
Yeah.
if
Yeah.
you just go reps on reps on reps, like you can get a crazy pump with 5 pounds.
Exactly. No,
Yeah.
totally. Well, that's awesome. I appreciate you telling us what you would pick and your weird food. And now, I'm going to ask if you could please share your best advice for someone who's never competed before but's thinking about it. And then the girl who's on her road to pro.
Yes. So the girl who is thinking about it has never done it before. My best advice is to say, go for it, enjoy the experience. I think it is so, like I said before, it's so rewarding to push yourself and to see what you're capable of. And like being a younger girl, I think that's so important to learn those limits and to learn like how capable you are of pushing yourself and dedicating yourself to something and working towards it and following through and actually doing it. Like it's so accomplishing. And I think as a young woman, I love that. And I think everyone should experience it. So I say, like, go for it and do it and just manage your expectations. But, have fun with it. There's nothing like the first show, nothing. Like, there is no experience like your first show. You don't have to go on stage and take first place, like no one expects that from you. So just enjoy it and love it, and do all of the things, just love all of it and enjoy all of it and appreciate all of it.
Love that.
And then for an amateur trying to go pro, for me, I think the biggest thing is hiring a coach. Get someone who knows what it takes and who knows what needs to be done to get there, and then trust them with everything and follow and go at it full force. Don't half-ass it. Don't doubt yourself. Like, commit to it 100% and give it all you got and push. And same with what I just said, like manage your expectations. I think it's pretty normal for girls to step on a national stage at least 3 to 5 times before they get close to that goal. So I think just managing those expectations is really important so you don't fall into, a really depressive state or just, a bad mental state, thinking, oh, I'm going to get it this first time, and then like feeling like a failure when you don't. Like just managing those expectations, still working your ass off, obviously, and pushing like you're going to get it, but not setting yourself up for just a massive defeat. And then just having someone in your corner that knows what suit to wear, what color to wear, what to do with your hair, how to pose correctly, how lean you need to get. Just having people around you and hiring the correct team that will give you all of the tools that you need to succeed, because it isn't just, a fluke to get your pro card. You have to have every detail from your head to your toe down packed. Like, even if you have the perfect body, it comes down to, what does your hair look like? What does your jewelry look like? What does your makeup look like? What does your posing look like? Like, it's so many things. So just surround yourself with the best team that you can to give you all those tools to succeed.
I love that. That's such great advice for both the person who's never competed as well as for the girl who's on their road to pro. And I appreciate you sharing that and also sharing it from experience and everything that you've given us insight in on today. So thank you so much for coming on. And I'd love for everyone to be able to tag you after they listen or as they listen and connect with you too. So can you let them know where they can find you?
Yes, of course. And thank you. This has
Of
been
course.
so much fun.
Yes, you're awesome. I so
Thank
appreciate you coming
you.
on.
Okay, so my Instagram is just Jordan D IFBB Pro. And then I have a website, which is just jordanwondergem.com. And then my YouTube is Jordan D Fitness.
Awesome. So I'll make sure I put
Yes.
all of those links in the show notes page. So
Thank
for
you.
those of you, yeah, of course. And that's always on celestial.fit/podcast. So Jordan will have her own category section there. So you'll just go to hers and you can find that. Or of course, if you're listening the day of because you're a true fan, then it'll be right at the top. So I can't wait to hear your guys' feedback on this episode because I've thoroughly enjoyed it. And I hope that you guys gained a lot from it. And of course, if you did, it means a lot if you can rate, review, and subscribe, or let a teammate know that they should check out Confessions of a Bikini Pro too. So with all that being said, thank you again, Jordan. And I hope that you all have an amazing rest of your day, night, or morning, wherever you are in the world, or you're listening